What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports MLB Swing for the Fences show. And really, it wouldn't be a Run Pure show without two things. DC's internet completely fucked up and unable to start the show, and Hoop having issues with his AirPods. It's just a normal day here, but we have a much smaller MLB slate than we did this morning. I believe 4 or 5 games rained out. So really put a damper on the people looking for the full slate of games, but we're here breaking it down. I'm with JT. We'll eventually be with DC as well. He tries to restart his computer and get some sort of stable internet connection. But before we get into the slate, I was on with my boy JT this afternoon on his new podcast, which has been a hit. Episode 4 was recorded this afternoon. Me, JT, and Mangone. So JT, talk to the people about the podcast. We had a lot of fun chatting it up, some MLB strategy talk. So let the people know what they can expect from your podcast moving forward.
Yeah, it feels good not to be the guy that has internet problems. I mean, for a long time, that was me. That's why I always say I feel so bad for DC with whatever's going on right now. Whatever surveillance the government has him under, that's interfering with his internet's performance. But yeah, we recorded a great episode of the Sweet Spot Pod. We're doing it weekly, once every 10 days, depending on what's going on, trying to talk about different trends, trying to talk about some surprising teams, players, and what we're seeing. I thought today was great because we talked a lot about how to pivot and adjust based on what we're seeing with reduced offense on most nights. We talked a bit about stacking and which players to include and exclude from our teams. We talked a little bit about the Astros outfield, talked about the Dodgers ownership, and thought it was really good. You and Sweet Travis always love talking about Sweet Travis. Sweet Travis also tried to predict his own death, but we talked him off the ledge, and I think that worked out well. So it should be up on iTunes and wherever you get the Run Pure podcasts. Thanks to our favorite helmet creator, Jeremy here. He got it up there about an hour and a half after we recorded today. So
yeah, great conversation. And, I believe you'll be bringing on different guests every week to kind of, shoot the shit, talk some baseball. Today it was wide ranging conversation. We hit on some strategy, some pitcher strategies, stacking strategy, one-off strategy. And then, Travis took us down a dark path where he talked about his post-death plans if he unfortunately left us too early. I mean, the number one thing on his list is entering the Thunderdome and letting it rip. So he's going to somehow enter the Thunderdome after something unfortunate happens to him. But it's all in the podcast. Go check it out. As talked about in the opening, though, 4 games off the slate. A couple of the top arms now washed out. Kevin Gausman was looking to be, I think, one of the more popular pitchers. He's off the slate, facing off with Shane Bieber, also off the slate. So it really, brings down the overall pitcher pool. Before we get into, talking pitchers, JT, like how do these rainouts affect the overall slate here tonight?
I think from the perspective of losing guys like Kevin Gausman and Shane Bieber and Max Scherzer from this slate, it changes it considerably because now you have guys who I think in the case of Yu Darvish and in the case of Luis Garcia, and really for me on this slate, in the case of Logan Gilbert, before these things probably would have been in the MMA pool, in the mix, but not a primary piece. Now I'm sort of looking at it a little differently. I think there's some interesting pricing, in particular on Garcia, who gets a miserable Detroit team, although it looks like he may face more lefties than I usually like him to see. And Sandy Alcantara as well, who gets a matchup here against a tough team, the Padres, but the run total is low. This game played really close last night, and he just hasn't been as dominant as he was last season. But on DraftKings, the 7,700 price tag for a guy with Alcantara's quality, his makeup, if it were a different matchup, I think I'd be a lot more interested. It's still something that I'm thinking about. Maybe I'll keep him in the pool. And then you have at lower price points, Josh Winder, who is pitching for the Twins against an Oakland lineup that we can't expect to do very much on this season. He looked absolutely great in his last start against Tampa Bay. That's the only thing that concerns me, is I worry about these rookies and how teams adjust to them in a start after they're so dominant. So it changes things from the perspective of before these things happen. I think you could look at Scherzer, Gausman, maybe build around those two guys and mix in your other players. Now, I think it becomes a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly impacts this slate. DC, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully the internet issues have been fixed. Just a brief initial thoughts here on the slate and kind of how those postponements affect the slate tonight. 4 or 5 games wiped away from rain.
Yeah, obviously half the slate gone, including some stud arms. Personally, this is personally one of my kind of favorite slates of the year, just how it all breaks down. And those pitchers being off the slate, I actually weirdly think kind of.
Yeah, it looks like it might not happen here today with for Mr. DC. The internet is continuing to head down a dark path. All right, JT, let's go ahead and we'll hop into the conversation here, kind of talk pitchers, and then what do you want to do? You want to go position by position or game by game? What's your preference here tonight?
Let's go game by game. I think we can knock it out fairly quickly that way. It becomes the one thing for us and for you watching. Number one, hit the like button. I can't believe we still have to say this. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're here. DC is trying. DC is doing his very best to get through that government interference and get on here for us. And so hit the like button, number one. Number two, with only 9 games on the slate, there are a couple of spots that I think are really, we're going to spend very little time talking about them. So I think we can get through this pretty quickly.
Yeah. DC, you with us? You back? No, doesn't look like it. All right, JT, let's hop into the pitcher conversation and kind of just break it up into 2 tiers, a top tier and a bottom tier. Well, anyway, you kind of look at this pricing structure now, and there's just not many guys at the top. I mean, it starts at 10-3 with Eric Lauer facing off with a tough Atlanta team. Can't imagine he's going to get much ownership. The first guy at the top here, I think that comes into the conversation is likely Darvish at home in that pitcher's park against this Braves team. One really bad start for him, 4 starts ago, but outside of that, he's been serviceable. And, on a slate like tonight, like serviceable might be good enough. So let's go. We'll just go, Merrill, Kelly and above. So 8-2 and above. For me, the guys that stand out as plays are, probably Darvish. I think Eovaldi is interesting, but overall, this is a very challenging pitcher slate after losing some of these big names. So talk to me about this top tier.
Yeah, so I'll start with Eric Lauer. He's been nothing short of fantastic this season, and you can't even say that there's an issue with the quality of his opponents because one of his dominant performances was against the Phillies. So he's been a different pitcher. The underlying metrics look fine, but am I going to pay 10-3 for him on the slate against a team in the Braves that should have success against left-handed pitching? We saw that they at least limited the upside of Julio Urias, of Clayton Kershaw, and of other left-handed pitchers. Their issue really is right-handed pitchers with power sliders, right? Those are the type of pitchers that I want to use against the Braves. I don't know that they're going to put up a ton of runs, but 10-3 is a little bit outside of where I'm looking to pay for him tonight. You get to Darvish. Darvish's issues have been with left-handed bats, and he's had some really severe home road splits the last couple of seasons. This is a home matchup. He's only going to face at most 3 left-handed bats against Miami. And I think he's my top guy here tonight in that game in San Diego, a low run total. I'm going to go to him over Logan Gilbert. Logan Gilbert has been fantastic in the early going. It's been 4 or 5 games where he's gone over 20 fantasy points, DraftKings fantasy points. His best start was against Tampa Bay in Tampa. This Tampa Bay team is now starting to hit the ball, and there's a little bit of concern with Logan Gilbert's hard hit rate to right-handed batters. So I think I'm not sure if I'm going to X him out of my pool tonight, but he's not going to be a priority for me. You talked about Eovaldi, and in the same matchup, I can't believe I'm saying this, the underlying metrics on Vince Velasquez at 6.7, I mean, they don't look bad. They look like he's found something, he's turned something around. And given the weather in Boston, given the way that stadium plays in this weather and how the Red Sox have been scuffling, I can see going down to Velasquez. I know that's below Merrill Kelly But with Eovaldi, I think with this White Sox team being so banged up, it's just a question of whether or not you want to pay the 9K price point on DraftKings. Much greatly prefer Darvish over Eovaldi at that price point. And then I do think you can go to Merrill Kelly. I do like to take pitchers against the Rockies in their first game out of Colorado. We talked about it on the pod earlier today. The Rockies with I think it's a 10-5 record in the early going or something like that, or a little bit better than that. But they have won most of their games at home, and we don't expect them to be a very good road team for the long season.
Yeah, so I'm going to agree with you up top. I think Darvish is the guy I'm going to go to. Just a really good spot here at home, facing this Miami team that continues to strike out quite a bit. I believe DC is back with us. Third time is potentially a charm. Let's see what we got. Top tier of the pitching spectrum here. What are you looking at on DraftKings?
Yeah, I heard you guys talk about Darvish and Gilbert. Am I holding up so far?
Yeah, so far so good. We're 10 seconds. 10 seconds in and we're good.
You got your mom to get off the phone, so the internet connection would work.
It's better than the zero we had so far. So I updated Zoom. So I'm hoping that's it. I'm sure you guys have obviously touched on the top of pitching. I don't know what you said, so I was trying to get my computer to work. But Darvish, Gilbert, I assume up top is that where you guys are looking?
Yeah, for me, I think clear Darvish is definitely the one for me, and then Gilbert, Eovaldi are the next two that I'd probably be looking at. I think JT is pretty much on the same page. Yeah.
So I do like those guys. JT, I did hear you briefly mention Sandy Alcantara, who just hasn't looked sharp, right? I've been on him these last couple starts. He's been disappointing, but this is still a guy that's going to give you, the full workload, right? 90 to 100 pitches. His stuff looks fine. Matchup, right? Maybe not perfectly ideal going to San Diego, but not something that you're super scared of by any means. And just really cheap, right? 7,700 for a pitcher who's going to go out there and throw strikes and compete, So I do like him quite a bit, but I do like two cheap pitchers quite a bit. One is the Twins' Josh Winder. He just made the one start. I wasn't on him that day. I think I liked a couple of other guys, and I remember I was stacking the Twins that day, so I did watch that whole start. I didn't really know much about him coming in to that start, but I was very, very impressed. Obviously, the results were good, but I remember just watching in the first inning being like, man, this is a guy I should have been on because he was 4K that day. It looks like they're going to stretch him out into a full-time starter. And the stuff looked good. He attacks the strike zone, high strike rate, throwing 95, 96. And I think, gonna get the full workload. He's got up to 83 pitches. I think he's good to go. So I really like Josh Winder. And then down all the way at the bottom at 4K, JT, I'm sure you're familiar with Spencer Strider, who's going to come in long relief for Jesse Chavez, who I think will pitch just one inning, maybe two. I feel almost certain it'll be Spencer Strider in after him. And he is like an electric arm. I mean, one of the most electric arms in the league. Last outing, he came in with like one out in the sixth inning, finished the game 3.2 thirds, but he was up to 71 pitches earlier on in the year. Huge strikeout stuff. And I don't know. I mean, I think he can go 5 innings if he's rolling. He was super efficient in his last outing, throws 100, 101, just pounds the strike zone. And I think he's got a chance to put up a really big score, not just a passable score, like a 20 plus fantasy points at 4K type of score. So I'm very high on these, these young, cheap pitchers on this slate. And I don't know, Hoop as a general thing, like we've obviously been doing
sign of death. There's the sound of death for DC's internet. It just, when that sound happens, it's game over. That's the third time. I don't think he's coming back to life. JT, talk to me about these cheaper pitchers. Before DC died on us, Strider was a guy who's talking about 4K. You're familiar with the Braves team. What are your thoughts on him?
Spencer Strider is an enormous talent. And there's two things that are at play here, maybe three things that are at play here. that give me pause about Spencer Strider on this slate, even though he's 4K. The first thing is we have starters that we know, and DC talked about Alcantara. I talked about Garcia. We talked about you, Darvish, Gilbert. You have Eovaldi. You have even Vince Velasquez, who I know are going to start the game. And assuming they pitch to their capabilities, they're going to give you 5 to 6 innings, maybe more, right? So there's a ceiling there to help you take down tournaments. So that's number one. Number two, and Strider could come in and pitch 3 innings. He could come in, the Braves could get ahead. It could go south, though. And here's the second piece. There's not much difference between Spencer Strider and his talent level and Hunter Green for the Reds and his talent level. The Brewers absolutely destroyed Hunter Green yesterday. I think Hunter Green is going to be a phenomenal pitcher.
I mean, the Brewers are the best offense in baseball, though. So, I mean, there's something to be said about that.
Well, they have been over the
best hitter, Rowdy Tellez. All right, they have the best hitter in baseball. How about that?
I can't argue with you, man. I can't argue when you bring out Rowdy. But seeing what they did to Hunter Green yesterday, seeing how they're not striking out as much, how they're hitting the ball, they've got the highest ISO and the highest WRC plus over the last week. And yes, it was the Reds pitching. But guess what? I mean, Hunter Green and Spencer Strider are very much the same pitcher. So the other thing here is, and I see what DC's doing, and I can't fault this strategy because it can work, especially in July and August. You pay down a pitcher, you take a 6K pitcher and a 4K pitcher, and you're going to get the 4 or 5 guys who have the biggest upside on the slate, all those 5 to 6K bats. I think that's very risky in the area that we're in right now, where there's not a lot of offense scored. We talked about this on the pod. And I think if you could find, Darvish and Winder, fine, and you find a cheaper stack, you can get some of those upside guys. I just think the expected range of outcomes for Spencer Strider, it's pretty wide tonight. And so if you're MME, I don't hate the strategy. I would limit him to like 5 or 10%. This is not someone that I would be going in with on a single entry or in a high dollar entry, unless you had a lot of money that you were willing to lose.
Comes down to with a play like that. It's like, okay, so if you're going to play him at 4K, obviously you're looking for an expensive offense that you like. The one issue on the slate is we don't have the expensive bats and Coors. The top offenses aren't all that hard to get to. The Angels are probably the most expensive stack on the slate in a pretty good spot. You Trout, Ohtani, so maybe like a full Angels and like Astro stack. I don't hate it. I never hate punting. Like if this guy can go out there and get you 10 fantasy points, that could potentially be enough. If he gets 8, that could be enough. If the expensive, by playing him, I guess what I'm trying to say is you need the expensive offenses to have big nights, which they could. And he's a guy I will probably have in my player pool tonight at 4K flat.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I love the talent. It's just for me, I think what you said is right. He'll be in my player pool, but I'm not going to have a lot of exposure to him because you need a lot of other things to go right that haven't quite been going right so far.
And you don't, and like I said, you don't need him to absolutely go off, and you don't need a lot to get over the field. He's going to be unowned. People aren't playing these long relievers at a super high rate. I don't know, because Tanner Huck yesterday, we were the only one that talked about Tanner Huck, and he ended up 17% owned on the day slate, and he pitched like an inning and a third. So, but your point is that was what, a 5-game slate, 6 game. I guess this one's pretty small though too. So there is a chance. We'll see. Anything else in this cheap range standing out?
No, nothing really in the cheap range. I think. Are
you on Winder? Or Winder?
So I think it's a great matchup against the A's, and I think given the state of that bullpen, you could see him, if he pitches well, go back into the 6th inning here. So I will have some. I do tend to not play these young guys after they have that breakout game because it's so often likely that they're gonna just scuffle. They won't be as sharp. there'll be an error behind them. You've got Correa, who's making errors left and right, is now on the IL, right? So the defense behind him is going to be a little bit, I guess maybe you replace Correa. That's somewhat of an upgrade with the way he was playing defense. But I just think things tend to happen not as perfectly as that last start, but at 6-4 on this slate, I think he'll be in the mix.
And then talk a little bit more about Velasquez. You touched on him when we were talking in the upper tier. Boston, from what I'm seeing, is going to be one of the more popular stacks on the slate. So, I mean, if you go Velasquez, it's one of those, double leverage situations where, you're obviously getting the fantasy points from a good outing from him, but then you're burning one of the better stacks, where there's going to be a lot of ownership. So talk a little bit more about him.
Yeah, 24% strikeout rate is what I'm seeing from him. He is coming off a really good start. So, I mean, this is a guy where I would take a shot on. Definitely not a guy that I'm building around. Just mention him just because when we were talking earlier about pitching and the way that the slate changed from looking at guys like Scherzer and Gausman and Bieber to now like, all right, how am I going to, I can take a look at, or I was forced to take a look at some of these other pitchers. So Velasquez, I'm like, could he have found something? It's possible. And because of the way that Boston is scuffling, I may have a share or two. Boston's not my favorite offense tonight by a long shot.
All right, looks like we have a DC fill-in joining us. DC was 0 for 3 on the internet connection, but our boy Stevie Boyton stepping in, getting the job done for us. What's up, man? Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, what's going on? Enjoying the pitching takes here. I was actually kind of bummed that DC couldn't finish what he was talking about, because I know he was super pumped for the double spend down at pitcher and play every single top bat on the slate build today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty in line with you guys. I agree with JT that it's a bit tougher for me to do that on this slate when we have guys like Alcantara and Luis Garcia in that 7K range that I think just much safer to throw 90 pitches. They're in decent spots here, so I'll probably be living more in that mid range myself. But I agree with you that Darvish is the top arm for me.
Yeah, and then I guess one more thing to bring up about Luis Garcia. Didn't talk a ton about him, but obviously a big favorite at home against the Tigers. And it looks like who was it? Austin Meadows got scratched. So obviously a downgrade to an offense that's already struggling. So maybe a little boost to Garcia. Any thoughts on that, Boyden?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Garcia long term. He's scuffled a bit out of the gate, but the underlying metrics are good. Like you said, the Tigers are a pretty soft matchup. I think he's got a great chance of the win. I do also like the Houston Bats tonight, so that kind of lines up. So yeah, he's a guy that you guys hadn't talked about a ton, but I do like a lot, and hopefully he kind of gets lost in the shuffle on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough now just because you look at the pitcher pool and there's just not a ton of options that stand out. So, I mean, I think he will, get some ownership, but we'll see. I mean, to me, it's not going to be enough to, get away from him. It's a good spot at home against this Tigers lineup. It sucks, which is unfortunate because I kind of had high hopes for this team for the first time in a while, and they're clearly letting me down. But, Meadows out of the lineup too. I mean, it just seems like a good spot, good price tag.
Yeah, he's probably at least 1,000 under price, and I think the ownership won't reflect that as much as it should.
Yeah. All right, JT, final thoughts here at the pitcher position.
Yeah, I like Garcia. We talked about it a little bit. I like him. I mean, he and Alcantara are the same price, I think, on DraftKings, 7,700. So now with Meadows scratched, the worry with Garcia is a little bit diminished. That lineup is going to be even weaker than it has been. So probably prefer him over Alcantara based on that. I like you, Darvish, and I might have a little bit of Winder. We didn't talk about Alex Cobb. I know that DC and Uncle T are in the chat talking about him, and he does get an all right-handed lineup here, which is good for him in St. Louis. The park is an upgrade, so all that's good. The price on DraftKings a little bit more than I might be comfortable normally paying for Alex Cobb. So for me, it's probably going to come down to you, Garcia, maybe I'll mix in some Alcantara and Eovaldi, and then a few shares of Winder and some of these other people, and that's probably about it.
Yeah, I'm on most of those guys as well. All right, before we get into the offenses here, do us that favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, helps us to continue to bring you guys these shows for free on a daily basis. Doing pretty good on likes. We've got about almost 400 watching, 150. Just going to need to get above 200 for the plays of the day at the end. So do us a favor, hit the like, hit the subscribe. We're going to go game by game. There's going to be a few games that we will not spend much time on. First one on the slate, we have the White Sox. We have the Red Sox. Totals 8. This is a number that's come down a little bit. I believe it was maybe 8.5 this morning. So it's sitting at 8 team total for the White Sox, about 3.5 team total for the Red Sox, about 4.5. And yeah, I think the Red Sox are going to be one of the more popular teams tonight. They're definitely going to get some ownership. Really cheap bet at the top of the order in Duran, 2.1K on DraftKings. He'll likely be a very popular play today. White Sox side, not much ownership, but the lineup doesn't look all that bad. You got some power at the bottom, like Gavin Sheets, Jake Berger, two like low-owned guys that could potentially hit a home run. So overall, I'll have some Red Sox. Not my favorite spot. JT, I'll go to you first. You already talked about Velasquez. I'm guessing this is not a game for you to attack offensively.
No, if I have one or two shares in multi-entry, maybe that's it. But mid-50s in Boston, not a ton of wind. And the biggest thing in that park is humidity, and it's not a lot of humidity, 70%, a lot lower than it was the last couple of nights where we've seen a bunch of offense. So for me, as of right now, probably not going to have a ton from that game.
All right, Stevie, what do you got for us here? White Sox, Red Sox game, like I said, totals 8. It's come down a little bit this morning. Any plays for you here?
Yeah, for me, I'll be focused most heavily on playing Eovaldi here. On the bats, I think Boston's probably lost me the most money of any team this season. They just have not put it together, and the stats back that up. I mean, on the season, they're in the bottom 5 in a bunch of the advanced metrics. Like JT said, I mean, Velasquez has not been as bad as we thought he was going to be. So yeah, I mean, and the weather's also terrible. It's in the mid 50s. It's like cloudy, gloomy. So while I think the Red Sox will be popular, I definitely like other spots more than the Red Sox today. I'm playing 20 lineups and trying to decide if they're going to be the last team I add or if I cut them right now.
Kind of the same boat. It'll be around 15 teams, I think. And they're a borderline squad. I mean, like I said, I do kind of like this lineup that they put together. You get the cheap guy at the top. So I will probably have some. I mean, in terms of stacks, probably like my 4th or 5th favorite spot, but we'll march on.
Duran's a big prospect, and he's hitting 400 in AAA. Power
he
speed
played
combo
up for
guy.
a while last season, right?
Yep. Yeah. They called him up for a bit last year.
At the end, yeah. All right, next game, we got the Brewers, we got the Braves, 8.5 total, which is pretty solid. Lauer versus Chavez, and then it looks like it's going to obviously be a bullpen game. DC's boy Strider coming in for long relief. I'm kind of always in on the Brewers, so I will have some Brewers. They've been treating me well. My boy Rowdy Tellez, back-to-back plays of the day. I mean, I think he had 3 home runs in that span, including a grand slam. So I will definitely have some Tellez. The overall stack for the Brewers, it's not all that expensive. Wong, you get 4.1K, Tellez 4.4, McCutchen 3.7. So it's a pretty affordable stack. I will have some Brewers here. On the Braves side, Lauer's pitched well enough where I just don't think I need to play in any Braves. I mean, obviously you look at their lineup, it is pretty intimidating. So I could see, making the case to play the Braves, but I don't think I'll be going there tonight. We'll stick with you, Boynton. Thoughts here on the Brewers and Braves game?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you here. I played the Brewers all week as well. They treat us well in that Red Series. It's going to be nearly 80 in Atlanta, and they're still cheap. I do like Strider, but this team's hot. They've got some of the best stats last 2 weeks in baseball offensively. My question is, I'm trying to see where JT's at on the Braves bats. I think they're too expensive for me, but man, I mean, this is definitely the best weather on the slate. The wind's blowing out to left. Lauer's, his fastball velocity's up, and he's kind of changed his pitch mix. He's not throwing the changeup anymore. He's throwing a lot of sliders. I'm just not sure if the spot I want to pick on is, stacking a team where their 5 best guys are all over 5K. So probably won't end up on Braves here. Have some interest in riding the hot Brewers. I mean, the prices have just not gone up, and they've crushed all week. So
yeah, kind of in the same boat. We'll go to our Braves guy, Mr. JT Hayes. You know the squad in and out. Any interest in the Braves? And then you riding with us on the Brewers tonight?
Yeah, I mean, the Braves coming off a series against the Mets, and they did have the off day yesterday, but played 4 games in 3 days. Pretty intense series up there in New York. And now they get a Brewers team that, you mentioned it, Lauer has pitched really well, and they've got that bullpen behind him. It's just, even if they ding up Lauer a little bit, it just becomes a little bit difficult to see that outlier performance there, even in good weather. I think if you're looking for one-offs, you can look to Duvall here, who's a little bit too cheap against the lefty, and Austin Riley's just been absolutely on fire. But I think you have to have interest in Milwaukee right now with the way they're hitting the ball, especially if they're going to get a guy that's going to come in and, like I said, be about the same exact pitcher as they saw yesterday. So I do have some interest in the Brewers.
All right, very good. Let's keep moving. Go to the next game. We have the Tigers. We have the Astros. 8 total in this game. Low team total for the Tigers, hanging around 3. Austin Meadows was scratched, so that's obviously an overall downgrade to their lineup. And then the Astros will be, I'd say, one of the more popular teams on the slate. Team total hanging right around 5. Good matchup for them. A team that you can pretty much play top to bottom. We talked about it on the podcast today, on JT's podcast, where this is a team you can play just about everyone. You can make the case for batters 1 through 9 in this lineup. So it makes it fun when you're stacking, to know you can get unique. It's very easy to do some wraparound stacks, hit up some guys like Pena. You get a shortstop hitting 7th. No one's really going to play him. Like, he's been solid this year. So a lot of different ways you can go about stacking up the Astros. But yeah, I mean, there's no denying it. They're in a really good spot here tonight. JT, will stick with you. Talk to me about this game.
Yeah, I like the Astros. Bo Brisky on the slate, one of the worst pitchers in terms of hard hit contact, one of the worst pitchers in terms of home run per 9. The Tigers bullpen been really, really bad. One of the worst on the season in Major League Baseball. And so I like these Astros here, and they're not nearly as high priced as you would expect them to be for their capability in terms of production. You start off with Altuve at 4.5, way underpriced for where you normally see him. I tend to skip over Brantley in stacks because I want to play Jordan and I want to play Kyle Tucker in here. Jeremy Pena has been on fire. If you want to play a very cheap catcher, Maldonado at 2.2. I always like him a little bit more against right-handed bats as well. And then we talked about that scratch of Austin Meadows being a positive for Luis Garcia, who was outstanding towards the end of last season. Hadn't really put it all together this season, but it's going to come, and I can see where that might happen tonight.
Yeah, Kyle Tucker's always an interesting one to me. I mean, batting 6th, I really think keeps his ownership in check, because I mean, he's a strong bat, but people don't like going towards the bottom of the lineup. They want the guys play hitting at the top of the order. So Kyle Tucker's always one of my favorite guys in tournament lineup spot. Definitely keeps his ownership relatively low. Boynton, what are your thoughts here on this Tigers Astros game?
Yeah, Kyle Tucker, probably my favorite player in baseball. The people who are in Discord pretty often know that. Just like you said, it's good for DFS that he hits in the 6 hole. It's not real good for the Astros that they have their best hitter hitting 6 the whole season. But yeah, I mean, they're just too cheap here. This Tigers arm had a 5 expected ERA and AAA before they called him up. Like JT said, their bullpen is not good, and they used all their good arms last night because it was a close game and they were trying to keep it close. So I think if the Astros get up early, we could really see the shitty parts of this Tigers bullpen. Astros are my favorite stack on the slate because of that. I play a ton of Astros anyways, but these prices and like we were saying earlier this season, coming into this week, they had only played 5 or 6 home games and like 18 road games. This is a team that all of their guys hit really well at home. They're starting to get hot. Their GM looks like a genius for letting Correa go and letting Pena win this job. He's just been awesome. So yeah, huge interest in Astros. I'm going to have a ton of them here, and also going to play a bunch of the lunch lady, Luis Garcia, at 7,400.
That's his nickname. I was trying to think of it. The old
yeah, he has the hairnet.
yeah, love to see it. All right, next game we got the A's. We got the Twins. Low total here, 7.5. We talked about Winder at pitcher position, a guy we're interested in. The A's are typically a lineup you want to avoid as is, but I do have some interest here in the Twins. Should be a pretty cheap stack here tonight with Correa going to the injured list, and then they called up Royce Lewis, who is 2K. We already got Jose Miranda in this lineup, 2.1K. Have to imagine Gary Sanchez slides up a little bit. Outside of Buxton, you're going to be able to get this lineup for really cheap, and a lot of different guys at different positions. If Royce Lewis is in this lineup, which I'm assuming he will be, 2K. Miranda at now he's first base eligible, 2.1K. So it's going to be a cheap team overall. Good lineup fillers, good secondary stack type team, I think. So yeah, I'm going to be in on the Twins for sure tonight, mostly due to the price tag. Boyd, we'll stick with you. Thoughts here on this A's and Twins game?
Yeah, I was on the Twins last night. They just made a ton of bonehead errors. I think they had 2 guys thrown at the plate. They had a guy hit by like a live ball. I think they were really close to having a big game last night. And I think if they do that, they'd probably be more popular here. I like them again. Like you said, they're too cheap. Their top prospects getting called up. Royce Lewis is a former, top 5 or 10 prospect in the game. So yeah, it's exciting. They are cheap. They're facing a really bad pitcher, and this isn't an Oakland pen that we have to be afraid of like we have in the past. The Twins bats have been hot lately too. They're 5th in weighted runs created plus and 8th in ISO the last couple weeks. So top 10 in both, facing a bad staff. Kind of the same thing we have with Houston. So yeah, I think the Twins are probably my second or third favorite stack, and they do fit well with teams like Houston and the Angels, who we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, curious to see this Twins lineup, because just you look at these price tags, they're going to be perfect to fit with some of these more expensive stacks. Yeah. Avoids having to, makes it easier to play some decent pitching and stack up the good teams, and maybe throwing a few of these Twins guys. So if that lineup comes out during the show, we'll circle back and talk about the specifics. JT, thoughts here on this A's and Twins game?
Yeah, I think the concern I have with the Twins, and certainly the injury, I guess, changes it a little bit with them being a little bit more limited, is that Rocco Baldelli has suddenly turned into one of these guys that will pinch hit for guys in the 5th inning. So outside of a Buxton and Polanco and maybe Sanchez, Jeffers, I guess Royce Lewis, then it becomes, any one of these other guys could get pinch hit for. I've seen that a little bit out of him. So I'll have some of the Twins, but I think there is a little bit of risk there. And you mentioned it's a very low total. Is a bullpen game for Oakland, even though their bullpen is not very, very good. It still means that you're going to see lefty, righty. You're going to see these guys come in, pitch 3 to 4 hitters at a time, and then move on. So that's not exactly, hasn't been the type of game environment that has resulted in a ton of runs for the opposition.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to the next one. We got the Nationals. We got the Angels. 9 total in this game. Team total for the Angels is over 5. Team total for the Nationals right around 4. Angels will be a very popular team tonight because of this big total. Trout, Ohtani, definitely guys to consider. My boy Brandon Marsh, definitely someone that's on my radar tonight. They are expensive. You will have to make sacrifices in your lineup if you play the Angels, but I think there's enough value out there to make it all work. And then the Nationals, I have some interest in the Nationals, and the Nationals are a team. This is the type of situation where I don't want to get cute. Like if I'm playing the Nationals, I'm just playing their guys. I'm playing Soto, I'm playing Bell, I'm just playing their best hitters. I don't think you need to worry about going to the bottom of the lineup, doing a wraparound stack. The team overall, stack wise, is going to be relatively low owned. So if I'm playing the Nationals, which I plan on having some exposure to the Nationals, it's just going to be their key guys, Bell, Soto, and Cruz if he's in the lineup. We'll stick with you, JT. Thoughts here on this Nationals Angels game?
Yeah, I like the Angels here. I think you have to be encouraged that Jared Walsh looks like he's finally gotten it going. Been off to a very slow start, a couple of home runs over the series in Boston. So I like them here quite a bit. Nationals first game coming out of Colorado. I tend to not play these teams a lot, but I think you make a good point that when the Angels are starting Jaime Barria, I think this is his first start, maybe his second or third appearance on the season. You can definitely look to guys like Soto, Bell, and Keibert Ruiz, and maybe even Yadiel Hernandez, who I think is a decent player if you need a little bit of value.
All right, Boynton, thoughts here, Nationals and Angels?
Yeah, same page. Really good weather there. It's in the 70s, which we love to see. Angels will be popular. I think there are ways to get different with playing them. I think, playing them with the Twins or just not the Red Sox, I think will be pretty unique enough. I'm with you with the Nats. I think the Nats are kind of sneaky here. But same deal, I want their top bats, and Ruiz at catcher has been really good. He was basically the prize of that Dodgers trade last year. But yeah, Yoan Adon for the Nats has been awful. 7.82 expected ERA, over 5 walks per 9. It can really go south quickly for him. And then behind him, Nats have a bottom 5 bullpen. So Angels deservedly have the highest total on the slate here. And I will have a bunch of them for sure.
Yep. Kurt Suzuki, 4.2K. Geez, that's an egregious price tag, but might have some because I don't think anyone will click on it. So I'm interested. And it seems like he does randomly just hit home runs too, like out of nowhere. So Suzuki, I think is interesting down there. All right. Offense dries up relatively quickly after this game. So let's see on the likes. Yeah, we got about 20 more. We said 200. So should be easy for you guys to get there. We're sitting about 180. So hit that like, and also hit the subscribe button as well. We got the Marlins, we got the Padres, 6.5 total. We like Darvish. We talked about Alcantara. I'm not playing any bats from this game, I don't think. I mean, I guess you can make the case for like Machado as a one-off, but outside of that, nothing for me. Boynton, any love for the Marlins or Padres bats?
No, this is probably a series that I'll play later in the weekend with different starters out on the mound. Low total here. I was actually on the Marlins last night, and they disappointed a bit against a really shitty pitcher. I think this is it's just a great spot for Darvish. The Marlins have struggled against right-handed pitchers. So yeah, I'm on both arms here. Won't be playing any bats tonight.
JT, anything for you here?
I mean, Steve said exactly what I was going to say.
That makes it easy. We'll move on to the next game. We have the Rockies and the Diamondbacks. Pretty high total here, sitting at 8.5. Team total for the Rockies right around 4. Team total for the Diamondbacks 4.5. We talked about the Coors hangover strategy. Typically works well when the Rockies leave Coors, especially the first game. Probably want to lean on staying away, and their bats are still priced as if they're in Coors. Oh my! Connor Joe is 5'7", Randall Grichuk 5'1", CJ Cron 5'6". Makes it very easy to not go to the Rockies today. I was gonna say I had moderate interest until I just now I'm seeing these price tags. Like I can't pay those tags. Like Connor Joe is priced the same as Trout and Ohtani. Like I just can't do that tonight. I do have some interest on the Diamondbacks. We talked about it on the podcast this afternoon. They're hitting a lot of home runs, and this is one of their bigger totals, I'd say, team totals on the season, over 4.5 here at home against Chad Kuhl. I want to see this lineup when it comes out, but I'm going to play some of these guys. They've shown some upside. Barishow, David Peralta. I think Smith hit a home run, I believe it was yesterday or the day before. Christian Walker, they have bats. So I definitely have interest in the Diamondbacks today. I hope the fact that it's the Diamondbacks, keeps them, relatively low owned. But man, I can't pay those Rockies price tags though. So JT, what are your thoughts here on this one?
Yeah, I might be freezing here. I might be having a DC issue. But I like the Diamondbacks here, especially. Hoop, you're on mute.
Did we lose you?
Full disaster here. No internet, no sound. We're falling apart. Boy, talk to me about the Rockies and Diamondbacks.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to say what JT was about to say. I do have some interest in the Diamondbacks here. Chad Kuhl is he's been good to start the year, but this is also a 30-year-old pitcher with a career xFIP around 5. I think I'm going to side on the 6 or 7 years of his career and think that some regression is coming. The Diamondbacks bats got off to just an awful start to the year, but last 14 days, number 1 in baseball in ISO against right-handed pitching. We've seen their lefty power bats kind of come alive, especially in that Marlins series, and they're super cheap here, Hoop. So Kuhl has a career expected ERA over 5 against left-handed hitters. I think that's who I would mostly focus on. Marte, has gotten off to a really slow start this year, but he's going to turn it on. He's at 4K, and the rest of the team is under that. So, I think if you're building some, Darvish, Logan Gilbert team, something like that, I think that the Diamondbacks are super interesting, especially the lefties, I think, 5 of their top 6 will be left-handed hitters anyways. So, yeah, I think they're sneaky here for sure. Yeah. It's also 97 degrees there. Haven't seen anything on their roof, but when it's around there, they usually keep it open. So that's another boost to the bats.
Yeah, that'd be helpful if it's open. All right, JT, it looks like the internet has stabilized. Talk to me here about the Rockies and the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, especially with the Rockies coming off of a series against the Nationals where they went through a bunch of bullpen arms. I think they're going to come in here and they're going to lay an egg. And I think the Diamondbacks are my top stack on this slate tonight. I think you're going to see them at lower ownership. And like Steve said, 217 ISO, at least over the last 7 days against right-handed pitching. Chad Kuhl has been good. The competition he's faced has not been so good. I think the wheels fall off here tonight for Chad and this Rockies bullpen.
Yeah, I just listen to I already had interest in the Diamondbacks, and then you guys kind of backing it up with those points. I think they might be one of my favorite teams here.
Yeah, to expand on what he was just saying, his last 2 outings are against Cincy and Detroit, and he's also faced the Rangers. So has just not faced any stiff competition yet.
Tonight he's paying the price tonight. That Diamondbacks are going to get it done for us. Next game, we got the Rays. We got the Mariners, low total 7. 2 pitchers that were pretty solid. And Whistler, did we talk about Whistler? What is he? No. So they're doing long relief situation. The Rays.
Whistler's going to throw like 2 innings. And then Josh Fleming, who got lit up last start, is going to come in, but I'd expect that he does a little bit better here.
Okay. Well, either way, I'm not playing either of these teams. Low total, team totals under 3.5 and below. So not a game for me. JT, any interest here?
Slight interest as one-offs on Suarez in France from Seattle, just because Fleming does give up a ton of hard contact to the right side.
Boyden, anything for you?
Not tonight. I've played a ton of Seattle early, and I think they're going to get their stud Kyle Lewis back on Sunday. This is a team I really like moving forward. So not tonight, but maybe later this weekend. And I think I'm going to be playing a lot of Mariners this summer in the right spots.
Much improved lineup. I mean, they have a lineup most nights where, if they're facing a weak pitcher in a decent ballpark, like, you can do some damage. You can play them like top to bottom almost. So it's definitely, I think, a team to keep an eye on moving forward. But, for tonight, not a ton of interest. Last game, Cardinals, Giants, another low total sitting at 7. Team total for the Giants, about 3.5. For the Cardinals, slightly below 3.5. I don't know. I just typically don't play bats in this ballpark. It typically works out quite well. Giants are a little beat up right now, as is. Their lineup just looks relatively weak. Another game that I'll be fading tonight. Boyden, any interest for you here?
Yeah, same. Cardinals worst power numbers in baseball against right-handed pitching. Their entire lineup is right-handed except for Carlson and Edman. So I'll be targeting them against lefties, definitely not against righties. And then, like you said, with the Giants, they're beat up in a pitcher's park, and their manager loves to pinch hit these guys, especially all these shitty guys that they have in there now. Made worse by an extreme pitcher ump behind the plate. The total's actually gone down today. So yeah, I won't be messing with this game.
JT, is it 3 for 3? Are you going to be stacking up the Cardinals and Giants games tonight?
Definitely not.
Fair enough. That's all you need to say. All right, let's see where we're at on the likes. It's all the games. Let's see. Oh man, geez, it was at 180. Now it's at 193. Oh, geez, that's painful if we got to get out of here. I mean, I guess I'll stall for a few. I mean, but now it's not 200. We got to get up to 215 in order to get the plays of the day. We'll go through and talk about some stacks here, but now we need 215 because you didn't get to the 200. Stacks that I'm interested in, I think we all kind of like the Astros and Angels seem like the two that are going to be popular. A couple that aren't going to be as popular. I do like my Brewers. I'll be going back to the Brewers here tonight. And then Diamondbacks are a team that I think we all kind of like. JT, talk to me about a few lower owned stacks that you're interested in.
Yeah, I think the Brewers, I talked about how hot they are. Same thing with the Diamondbacks in terms of their capabilities and the team that they're facing. I'm looking through the slate right now, and I mean, you guys mentioned the Twins. I don't really love that spot, but I could see where you could play some of those guys. And then that's about it. I don't know if I'll stray too far from that pool. Maybe throw in a Red Sox stack just in case things get wild up there. But, I mean, the White Sox bullpen has been faltering too over the last couple of weeks. It's just not my favorite spot, and I prefer to be more heavily invested on the games that we spoke about.
Very good. Boyden, talk to me about one or two stacks that you might be a little more under the radar.
Yeah, I think the Twins we should go hit on again. Like you had said when we first talked about that, we get two super cheap guys, well, at least two. And then like that just makes Buxton so much easier to play within the stack. I will note a guy that I've been trying to avoid when stacking up the Twins is Gio Urshela. Even though he hits in the middle of the lineup, he's just been awful this year. Numbers are really bad, especially lately. I'll be interested to see if they start guys like Kepler or Larnack because of exactly what JT was talking about. If they start them lefty, I feel a little more confident using them, just because they're already starting the game in the negative split. I think Kepler was sick earlier this week. He's back now. I just love the prices here. And I mean, JT and I talked about it on the preview podcast on the pod that we did about a week before the season. This is just not the same Oakland bullpen that we've seen the last couple of years. They're just really cutting cost, and it's showed in their results.
Very good. Yeah, I still don't have that Twins lineup, but I agree with the Ursula thing. I pulled it up. He's like 1 for his last 20 something, like a ton of 0 for
He's been
5s.
awful.
Yeah, he's been terrible. And then like when he is going well, it's usually like singles and stuff, not big power hitters. So.
And
when people stack up the Twins, they just include him because he's hitting fifth. You know,
he's always in a good lineup spot. Yeah, makes sense. All
and
right,
he's
let's.
it's a string of zeros.
Yes, yeah, it has not been a fun ride if you've been playing a lot of Gio or Shella. Let's get on to the plays of the day. And, for me personally, there's a lot at stake because I went back to back with my boy Rowdy Tellez. I believe it was Tuesday. He got us 1 home run, and then Wednesday got us the multiple home run game with the grand slam. Actually, should have been a third. I don't know if you guys saw the last at bat. I missed by 12 inches, but it was
gone.
Yeah, I mean, he hammered it. But it ended up being a double, massive game. You needed Rowdy really to win any money. So a lot of pressure on the rich parents play of the day today, but I got to go to our Diamondbacks. I'm going to go with the guy that has treated me well in the past. Mr. David Peralta is going to be the rich parents play of the day. Should be in the middle of that lineup for the Diamondbacks facing Chad Kuhl, who we all think has some regression heading his way, and it's going to start tonight. Peralta is going to get us that bomb. All right, Steve, you got a new name for your play. Our boy Helmet whipped up a graphic in the middle of the show for us here, and I think the people will like it. It's not the mom's basement play of the day. It is now the bad internet play of the day. Saved us from DC's terrible internet. So who is the bad internet play of the day?
Yeah, so the bad internet play of the day is actually, I think he's going to hit one spot in the order before the rich parents play of the day. I'm going to go with the guy who has started the year off cold, but, the Diamondbacks just gave him a huge deal before the season. Ketel Marte priced at $4K. This is a guy who, when he's hot is a mid $5K guy just because he's a power speed combo. And yeah, I think the low-owned Diamondbacks get it done tonight. Love those lefties.
Isn't that graphic great? I'm assuming that's why you're laughing, JT,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Just
yeah.
X over poor DC's face.
Oh, it's so good. Just out of the blue, he whips this up and says, here's Boynton's play of the day. Just phenomenal work by Helmet. Gotta love that. Hopefully DC's watching.
Fantastic.
I know. Yeah. All right. The last play. I mean, it wouldn't be a Friday night if you don't travel on that Air France airline and head over and lock in the Eiffel Tower play of the day. One of the longest to date plays of the day. I mean, it's just so good that it is never up for change. Like people try to change their plays. Like the Eiffel Tower play could never go anywhere. I mean, it's just so original. I just think back to that show. I mean, we just queued it up perfectly. Just such a natural fit with JT. So Friday night, Eiffel Tower play of the day. Who do you got for us?
Yeah, we always have a good sponsor too for the Eiffel Tower play of the day. Today, it's sponsored by none other than the Coalition for a United Ukraine. So whatever, they paid the bill. It's fantastic. I was going to go with Ketel Marte, but
wow,
I'm going to go with someone different just because we gotta give 3 plays, and it's a guy I like to call the Hummel telescope. Cooper Hummel in that Arizona lineup. I think they just demolished this Colorado team. I think they might put up almost as many runs as the Brewers did the other night against the Reds. It's going to be so tasty watching that game later on. Let's do it.
Love the play. He's a quick guy too. He gets steals and stuff, right?
Oh, he's very speedy. Runs all over the bases.
Yeah. So he's gonna get us a couple steals here tonight. Diamondbacks, man. It's gonna be my team now. I mean, we're all kind of coalescing around this team. The lineup's still not out. Kind of fits that theory we talk about. The West Coast games, the lineups come out late. I mean, we're an hour and 20 minutes to lock. The lineup's still not out. Diamondbacks are going to get it. No Dodgers. Friday night, Dodgers have been treating me well. No Dodgers on the slate. It's going to be the Diamondbacks tonight, boys, getting us to the winner's circle. So love it. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. That's going to do it. We'll be back over the weekend with our main, with our regular schedule of shows. I believe there's an MMA show tomorrow, UFC 274. So the boys will be breaking down that pay-per-view card tomorrow morning. So make sure you check that out. But for the crew tonight, what's that? NBA, they got NBA tomorrow morning as well. I think should be a big slate. So make sure you check out all our shows. We're going to get out of here though tonight. So for JT, for Steve Boynton, I'm Hoop. Good luck tonight in your contest.